Well, good afternoon, Monty. It's so great to have you. You know, what we're wanting to do is just bring deeper awareness to the. Now we've changed it to the Sound Wellness Initiative, and part of the reason why I was so fascinated and reached out to you to be involved was just knowing the work you've done, certainly as the musician that you are, and I'd love you to just share more about your background and all that you've accomplished in that field, but also because of your significant work with children in schools and all kinds of walks of life and then also certainly the elderly, and just your way of being as not only a musician but just the space you hold for people to use music as a way of expression. So that's certainly why when I had the privilege of having you into my home and just being with you, and then also coming to hear you play, I was just so touched by your beingness. So that's part of the reason why I reached out. So I just guess I'm curious to get an idea of, first of all, why you think or feel Sound of Music is so healing.
Um, I guess I would start with just saying that one of the beautiful things about music is that in the same way that you can play a single note, or you can do a 3-chord song, or you can do incredibly complex things, clear up to orchestras or whatever, that music has the potential to impact people in such a variety of ways. And from a simple, turn on the radio and tap your foot as you drive down the road and sing along, and maybe that makes people feel better, to a campfire setting, to where you're collaborating with others and being creative, and what that does for the brain and the mind. I mean, just the whole sense of being. Music can impact all of that, and that's the way it was for me a lot of my life. And then, as you said, it's become more of a healing avenue for me to reach kids everywhere from little kids to people who are the oldest people in the county, so to speak, and somewhere in between. So I guess as just a quick backstory, I'm the middle of 5 kids, all of whom were musical, and our mom was a really fine pianist. Well, still is. Mom's still alive. One of my kids asked her the last time we saw her, she was getting ready to go play at church, and they said, "Grandma, how long have you been playing organ at church?" And she thought about it for a minute, and she said, "I guess 73 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So music obviously has been part of all of our growing up, and it was, figuring out instruments and singing along and just being around it. And then picking up a guitar, which for me was the escape from piano, but that opened up the door to songwriting. So since I've been a 9-year-old kid, I was writing songs. And then, it's just been a huge part of my experience. I got a degree in music, started teaching music, and again, the songwriting was part of it. And I guess to go back to what I said earlier, I felt like as a music teacher, it's not necessary that everyone walks away with understanding the difference between a whole note and a quarter note. But if they find out there's a way to enjoy music, and that it can come from the inside out, that there's a way, whether that's a chance to dance, or to hear a favorite song, or to the people that get into the lyrics and want to analyze what it has to do with, or what piece of history that speaks to, or about relationships, just whatever it might be, that there's a way to connect with it. But within that, that was definitely the first time for me as an adult to involve kids in a songwriting process, and that tend to happen as groups. So the next step in my life was becoming a middle school principal. And again, from working with special needs kids to just helping put on school dances, music was a piece of that. And the adaptive music is what it was called. When I continued as principal working with my kids, that would be, the term then was adaptive. So it was an amazing thing to see kids that by 7th grade, they can't spell their name, but they know the words to every song on MTV. And seeing kids that they said they can't function with this hand doing something separate from this hand. And then having a kid start to play drums with what we're doing. You know, I'd play La Bamba or something, and we had a kid bust into doing the hi-hat with this hand and the snare over here, and he's crossing the center line of his body and doing 2 different functions with his hands, and having people say, this 14-year-old, they've never seen that happen. And then to use music to build off of that. I'm just throwing out examples because I'm constantly amazed with where music can take us and how it helps connect people and helps people learn and can have that amazing healing quality. So typically, if I went to a school as an artist in residence for somewhere over the last 25 years, it was typically with a group as kind of this, they were expressing something as a group, and there's the collaboration and the creativity piece. So one quick example of that is the last November, and for Veterans Day, I was at a middle school, and I wrote with middle school kids and what they wanted to say at the yearly Veterans Day assembly. And the veterans always come to this area of Iowa where I was visiting. And what do they want to say, and how would it be in a song form, and how would hit songwriters look at it? And you have this amazing experience of the veterans hearing that in an art form, and the kids getting to express it and be in the recording and be in the video. And then I also wrote with the veterans, and we had a song to sing to the kids. And there were veterans talking to me about expressing something with music allowed them to do something they had not done and sometimes since Vietnam or something, for example. So on a large group scale, that would be part of my experience of seeing how music can pull people in and the feelings they get from it, which can be very healing, just to keep using that word. There's another part of my life where I go into settings such as a residential treatment facility. And in this, when I do that, I'm not working with groups, I'm writing with individual kids. So we go from, here's this giant assembly and people have expressed what they want to say as part of a Veterans Day assembly, and it's 1,000 people come together. In this other setting, I'm sitting down with kids who choose to come in who have had pretty dramatic backgrounds. And what they decide to put into a song is oftentimes something that they've chosen not to talk about before, or has always been seen as a very negative part of their lives. And then through expressing it in a song and saying what they've learned from it and what they want others to know, and then to see other people hear their song and cheer for them, then suddenly that part of their life that has been so difficult becomes something that's part of that they can see sometimes as a strength. So one of those experiences in the last year was with a person who I met in North Dakota, and we wrote her song called Carousel. And Carousel was her idea of a theme idea for her life of, at the age of 18, at this point she had had 46 foster care placements. So you can see where the
Gosh, wow.
yeah, so the carousel image was perfect. That was her thought. And see, here again is something that you don't go around bragging about, that you've had this completely crazy life and you've had these. I mean, if you get taken into foster care at the age of 7 or 8 or 9 and you've had 46 placements by the age of 18, it gives you an idea how it's just one place to the next to the next. And in the course of this song, she actually shares with the listener, whoever hears the song, what she thinks is important, that it matters that I know you and you know me. And even if I move on from here, what we take and gain from each other is something that you don't take for granted. So what I might do is, when we go from this format of this video, maybe at the end of the video we can put a link and share. Anybody that wants to can actually look at the assembly and the kids with their song, with the video that came out of that. And I can also share the link to Carousel, which has the performance of the song and the lyrics. So if people want a more clear image of how it went from I show up with people I don't know and with veterans and with middle school kids, and then to see what happens when their music helps them connect, to a situation with an individual who has a chance to heal through music. And just so you know, I have hundreds of those experiences with individual kids, and I always learn from them. And I might jump into that in just a second, but definitely it's been powerful for me, and I'm still constantly learning. I mean, it's just an ongoing part of my life that I find out another place that music has power. One researcher whose name isn't going to pop into my head right now, but basically says music is a language that the human brain invented, and that it loves, that it's very, very much a part of us, and we as humans actually love music, and it impacts us whether we're aware of it or not. Even people who say I'm not good at music, or I don't even sing in the shower, or I don't listen to music, it's still very much a part of our being, and in very fundamental ways. So.
Yeah, I think for me, as you know, the whole idea of sound and music comes hand in hand. So even though this is, the whole idea of the Sound Wellness Initiative, I think just understanding that giving that body and giving that energy and motion or emotion a voice. Too often people get intimidated thinking, well, I can't sing, so I like to, what I love about what you do is it's not about performance, it's about just that expression and giving the body and the heart and the mind a voice. So I really appreciate, again, just the energy you hold for people in that. I'm curious if, with the idea though of sound and music, if you have any thoughts on when people talk about the various tunings or any frequencies, or do you have, anything you want to share on that subject?
I might, of one other thing you said, that I'm glad you said that about the music piece isn't always about performance. And I think this is something that I'm better at with age. Like maybe when I was 30, the idea that the performance is about me and how well I perform. And I still, when I perform, I do want to sing well and I want to play well, but that people who want to express music, that if you want to say technically, they're really bad at it and they sing out of tune and they play the wrong guitar chord and their rhythm's not good. That just really doesn't matter so much to me. if it's something that they're getting a lot out of, then I say go for it. It doesn't mean I always want to go play with a band who
Yeah.
it's not good, but it's still that joy and the non-performance piece is a big deal, which is something that for me I love so much about the songwriting. Um, when kids say I haven't written a song, and I say, yeah, but you have a story, and they're like, I don't think I have a story. And you can say, yeah, how'd you get to school today? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can start talking. Yes, you do. Everyone has that story. And it's interesting because when I do kind of professional level songwriter workshops for adults, it's very hard to get adults to want to do songwriting because they feel like well, what if I'm not good at it? Like, well, so I want them to have the experience. I want people who want to pick up a guitar and learn how to play it to get far enough along they can enjoy singing and playing or whatever they want to do. Your question about the impact of certain frequencies and tones and things like that that's a part of me that like I'm very aware of sound and the energy, but I am not like a technical scientific person. It's related to music. It's more like I know what works, and then I have other people explain to me why that works. And some of that's just because I've been, um, 50 years of playing guitar and singing and being in bars or churches or Carnegie Hall or an outdoor thing. And where do you set up a speaker in a room to get it to sound good and to not be too bassy? And that if it is, people can't, it's too muddy and people can't hear what's going on. And so I actually understand the physics really well of getting sound the way I want, and knowing that how people hear it influences, I mean, I should say it this way, how the sound comes to people influences what they focus on. So if they can't clearly hear the words, they're not going to follow the lyrics and all of that. But in terms of, there's a huge body of research and knowledge that you are way more aware of than I am that has to do with frequencies and what those can do. I guess I'm kind of more of the hands-on, knowing what I need to know that works for me, and just the experience of seeing when it works and when it doesn't, and knowing in this setting you do A rather than B. And then somebody says, so you always do A? And I'm like, no, then you do B tomorrow because it's a different setting. But the actual biological and scientific part of it, I really can't speak to that in a way that is meaningful. Pretty much just to expose what I don't know.
No, and the whole reason I ask it is because I personally believe that sometimes people get too caught up in frequencies, and I think there's certainly a lot of scientific evidence in the whole field of vibrational medicine and understanding even traditional Chinese medicine that will look at certain frequencies that are associated with certain organs, and I think that's going to be an interesting field of continue to study. That's also based on history of temples in Egypt, and I mean there's so many things. But what I love about what you shared and is that one size doesn't necessarily fit all, and one size doesn't necessarily fit every moment. And so part of the philosophy I have is just focusing on one frequency without understanding the harmonics of it could actually maybe create more detriment than help. And I think sometimes, we get too technical versus just being very present to the feeling sensing state. And so I would love you to expand upon that a little bit about just when you're triggered to write a song or share music, and thinking about how that comes out from a sound perspective and how it might affect others. Just, I mean, if you can jam on that a little bit.
Um, so this is going to be pretty random, but I'll throw some things out there. Um, so one of the things, I'm going to start with large groups because that's probably the area where I do some things that most people don't do. For instance, if they say we have 800 eighth graders in an auditorium or a gym, and you have an hour with them to do something, that's, I like that, and most people, would rather swim with sharks or something than do that. And there is a part of that that even in a really large group, my first thing is to create a relationship, which sounds kind of odd, but I'm just using that extreme examples. If you have 800 eighth graders who think that you're going to preach at them or something else, and they want to turn you off, you cannot win that. So humor tends to be something that instantly will pull people in instead of shut them off, unless you're making fun of them. But so if I start with, they're coming in and I see a kid with a t-shirt that says AC/DC, and I say, hey, I like your t-shirt, as they're coming in, and he's like, can you play AC/DC? And I'll probably say no, but then as he walks away, I'll do a riff from an AC/DC song, and then that's a connection, and then he'll go up and tell somebody else, and then somebody will say, can you play some George Strait, or can you play Louis Armstrong? And so as they're coming in, I'm responding to them and throwing things out, and can you name this tune? And then maybe I'll sing something with, you guys don't know this one, but it's the first example I know of a rap style coming into an acoustic guitar player's world, and I do the lyrics backwards as we go, so see what you can figure out. And then it's a challenge, and it's fun, and it's non-threatening. But what's happening during that time is on an energy level, and I know, Susanna, that's something that you really pay attention to. And so it took me a long time to figure this out, but sometimes I'll leave a group and I'll know specifically where like hundreds of people were and the influence they had on the group. And so one of the things I had to learn is that when the group leaves, I am carrying this just crazy, non-healthy sometimes amount of electricity in my system. And I don't know if officially I should say electricity, but I had to learn to let go of some of that in productive ways, even if it meant going for a walk or just sitting and playing guitar for a little bit, because it would, just in terms of how I would feel or being able to focus after that, because I'm so intently focused. I'm bringing that up about a large group because basically what I'm saying is I'm feeding off of the energy of hundreds of people and then kind of riding that wave and paying attention to when they're going up. And I want to keep them going up, but not to the point they're out of control. And then how to bring them back down and then bring it to a whisper where I can actually say something I want them to think about. And the reason I talk about that with music is that music helps me get there, because humor is, in a song, is energy. It feeds the energy. And certain approaches to music, the big bold chords. So think of the intro to AC/DC Back in Black, or a guitar part from a Doobie Brothers song, or whatever it might be, the intro to Superstition by Stevie Wonder. There are certain things that just crank the energy and people will go with it. And then if you turn around and you're doing What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong, that tends to just take all of that energy and bring it into a quiet spot with huge focus. And then if I want to say something to them or do a song that has the lyrics that I want them to think about, then I have them in a place where that energy is focused. But it means I kind of absorb and take in and use a whole lot of energy or electricity as I'm doing that. So when I switch to a setting and I'm just with an individual kid, that just changes so dramatically. It's more like instantly, and instead of the relationship being about I'm getting them focused, it's more like I'm using music and conversation to make it feel really safe, so that this is your song. If I was writing with you or anybody, like, my main thing is this is your song, and I'm going to ask you anything I think of, but you don't have to answer it unless you want. And you can tell me anything that you choose to, and I'll take notes, but nothing goes into the song unless you want it in there. And even if we write a song and a day later, you're like, yeah, take the comment about my mother out of there, then we would. And so if people feel really safe and I'm asking them questions and it's for the purpose of a song and not because I'm going to decide which medication they need or that it's going to get them in trouble, then people tend to be really honest. And when they really tell their story and they think about, if you're telling me your story, and then I say, if anyone in the world could sing this song, like, who do you think would sing it? Would it be Madonna, or would it be Garth Brooks, or would it be Beyonce, or, what is this, and some people can think about that and go, no, my song would sound best if it sounded like 21 Pilots. I'm like, okay, let's listen to that. And then I'll take that style and we'll figure out how it fits. But it's always, it's their song. And then they're suddenly thinking musically and about what would impact their audience and what do they want the listener to gain from it. And all of a sudden, the whole dynamic, it's not about me entertaining, it's not about me cranking the energy, it's just allowing them the safe space to create something that they want to share. I might say this for anyone out there that does similar work. Two of the things that took me a long time to figure out that works really well, at least for me, if I have that safe setting, they know it's their song, they are the ultimate editor. Anything they want, I'm just going to help them design it and make it work as a song. That if a person has told their story and the song starts taking shape, and then I ask one of two questions. One might be, what do you think someone who has lived a similar life to yours, but it's you 2 or 3 years ago, if this song had something to say to the old you or to someone who now is where you used to be, what would you want to include in the song that might help them? That tends to bring, that allows them to see the song as an expression of how they're getting better. And that's really powerful. Sometimes I say, with where we are in the song, let's look ahead to if everything went the way you would like it to go. So for instance, it's the old thing of, planning for the future, but it's safer when you say, what could this song say that you're going to try to remember, or that would help you or would help lead you to where you want to be in 5 years? Well, it's sometimes getting, for a person in a very who's living with a lot of trauma or who carries a whole lot of that memory, sometimes if everything is about today, that doesn't always feel very good. But if you can see how things have gotten better, or you're looking even to tomorrow, one thing that would make tomorrow better, then that allows you to talk about what you do today could help make tomorrow better. I don't know if that really makes sense, but the song is the avenue, and they are using the song for their own, I'm going to call it healing, because it's hard to heal when you're completely stuck in today. As soon as you start thinking about what could make tomorrow better, you're putting a plan in place. I think there's power in that.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And I think given where we all are right now, and it's the whole idea of, like, when I work with people, just from not necessarily even a songwriting or musical perspective, but just from a sound healing perspective, I think it's so important to teach people to listen to their body. And if your body wanted to say something, what would it say? Or, your heart wanted to speak something, and then how that can then end up turning into even a piece of music that you didn't even realize. I mean, it's like, it's, so I think, I guess one of the things I would love for you to share, if given that a lot of people are still in maybe isolated experiences, or being all of a sudden shoved in with their family and the emotions that come of that, how would you recommend that people might use this as an opportunity, or how to manage, how would you use sound or music to help manage the stress that might be coming up, or the emotions that start flying, or any thoughts you can give on just how we can, yeah, that's kind of it.
I love that question. I might start with this. When I was a professor of school leadership, that was another point in my life. And one of the things I would ask people to think about regarding a staff meeting, we would make a list of, when you're in a staff meeting, in some schools, people love that, and some people just dread staff meetings. But regardless of how you view those, in your history as a teacher, what things happened in a staff meeting that you would say raised the energy level in the room? And what kind of things on a negative point suck the energy out of the room? And you can't control all of that. So if there is a kid, let's say, an experience that I had as a principal, we had a kid that we knew had leukemia. Things weren't going to be good. We had to plan for that. That is not going to be a positive energy moment. So if you take that same thought about energy, some things add energy and some things suck energy out of the room. And you think about people being at home. So Michelle and I right now, we have 3 college-age kids that were all gone, that are now back home. So we're all dealing with, we've been on our own, and we're all back together. So our role with music is just knowing there are times we've come out of our quiet time when some people are working online, and Michelle's doing therapy online, and I might be working on a recording, and I've got headphones on, and we all allow each other that quiet space. And then it's just like, oh my gosh, we've been stuck in this house forever. The up kind of music and cranking something up, and the girls usually like to dance or something, and people are moving, and it's okay to just be loud, and everybody's prepped for that. And they may get out that, whatever that was, Dance Revolution. It could just be that, I don't know, they're just using it for movement. Maddie is student teaching right now with physical education, so she has to create things for kids to do at home, and a lot of those are with music. So she's practicing that, and people may jump in, but we're using music intentionally to bump up the energy and and to just say it's okay to be kind of crazy for a while. Um, on the flip side of that, when everybody needs to come down, that can be a great chance to just have an agreed upon time that, so at 8 o'clock, everybody can either read or they can do this or that, but we're going to put on some kind of quiet music and we're just going to chill. And maybe people are going to meditate or take a nap or stretch or whatever it might be. But music is just used as a guide. A really nice thing about that, I always think of people who do massage therapy. They know that the music they put on switches in 15-minute increments or whatever it might be. So they're using music as a timer. So again, it can be, we're going to crank music for 30 minutes and be crazy and don't look at a computer and just be okay with the noise, or go outside and run around or something. It's like a built-in break. But if it's a half hour of music and you know that, and the quiet time is a half hour of music, then you don't have to worry about checking your watch. Whoever has programmed it, you just kind of know that this is our peaceful time and the reconnecting time, and nobody gets to dance and jump and be crazy. With little kids, I mean, I spent part of my life writing songs intentionally, for like a song called Brain Break. It was very intentional about get up and move, and then try to get this hand behind your neck and clear around to your face, and just goofy, high energy, because it's meant to be a break. And I think we all need that as adults. So music can be the energy keeper, the things that add energy, the things that say chill it down. It can be the timer part of it, and kind of related to how music can, like a certain song triggers, oh yeah, I was dating somebody in high school when that song came out. Music has the potential to, for us to have associations with it. So as a family at home or a group at work, if certain songs come on and we can associate that as a group, even 10 years later, you hear the song and you're like, oh yeah, that was our get up and move and be crazy song. And another song can become an association, especially with little kids, that this is the time we do A, B, and C. And then we're going to read books, and then we're going to brush our teeth, and we're going to get in bed, and whatever those routines are. I mention that because right now, something a lot of families struggle with is they had school or daycare or something as the structure that kind of ran their lives, and then that gets pulled out, and without some structure, kids, it's hard to feel safe and secure when it's just a free for all day long. So again, ideally, I think whether it's we're older or if we're kids, we use music in smart ways. I would say that's can be true too if we're thoughtful about it, that we can say, if there's a TV series that makes people laugh and they have fun with, so 3 times a week we're going to watch an old episode of The Office just so we can laugh together and be goofy, and it's not always a scary movie, or it's super serious, dramatic, and people dying or whatever. It's okay to have those more serious things, but we can intentionally use music and other things to build routine, to bring us together, to have common experiences. But yeah, music can play a big role.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that, because I think so many people don't. I think the biggest thing that I like, I'm wanting to focus on, helping people realize, is tuning into their body and realizing that when you're feeling anxious, even hum, you can laugh, you can, all the sounds, whether, and that might come out into a song or whatever, but just to allow that flow of energy through you to help shift it. And I feel like there's so much more, as we've talked about, of the vibrational understanding. And when we are in stress, we're shutting down our systems, versus when we're in the flow and allowing our body to have a voice, be it turned into a piece of music or just a sounding. I think it's such a powerful thing. And so anyway, I appreciate all that you shared here.
Susanna, along those lines, I might say one other thing, and that is, I think in any group or with any family, you're going to have people who will say, okay, so now I need to breathe and let's do this breathing stuff. And you're going to have other people just go, I'm not going to sit here and do that. That's dumb to me. Or in a workplace, you'll have people that will, I don't know, they're for exercise, or they're just like, no, I don't do that kind of stuff. Or, whatever it might be that people will engage with or won't. But one of the things, again, that I love about music, I don't need to say, it's really important that everybody breathe deep, or it doesn't need to, I can know that I'm using music to accomplish these things or to get heart rate up or whatever, but I don't even need to say that. I can just say, whoa, that song's crazy. Can you get your feet to do this? And if I'm thinking about kids again, if they jump in and they're like, that's a challenge, they are getting their heart rate up, or it's causing them to breathe deeper, or on this song, see if you can hold your breath all the way through the chorus, or whatever it is. Music can be a very playful way to help us do those things that engage our body and our mind and our spirit, and just the things that can help center us a little bit. So yeah, I'm just bragging on music a little bit.
Yeah, wonderful. So we definitely want to highlight the work you're doing. And so with this interview, I think Annette has your information, but if just so we also have it here, if people wanted to find you, or they were interested in engaging you for a keynote, or to work with their company or their school or whatever, how do they best find you?
Yeah, probably the easiest way to find me is through my website, because it's my name. And I'm fortunate in that aspect that Monte Selby is, I'm the only one out there on Facebook, or with a, website, or if somebody Googles me, it's, my website's going to come up. So if they can see something with my name spelled correctly on it, then it's not hard to find me, because I'm not John Smith, so my name's unique. I guess I'm lucky on that. Yeah, that would be great. I appreciate that. And if someone does go to my website, then it's easy to email me, and I always write people back, and my phone number's on there too. It's totally okay for people to call. I want to say something about that, Susanna, and that is that people tend to call and they say, what do you do? And so I do. I keynote conferences, I work in schools, I'm an artist in residence, I do assemblies, I do teacher training, I go sit in with a band at a local bar, I do house concerts. But every time I do something, I customize it for the group. And so sometimes if it's a CEO of a business who calls and says, what do you do? I'm like, what do you want to have happen? Do you want people to feel motivated? Do you want to do a specific training? And that's part of what keeps my life interesting, because I tend to get bored easy with things. So if every time I'm customizing what I do, then whether it's kindergartners or like the Legacy Project, that the goal of that was to write with the oldest people in the county and write songs with a living history thing. And once we decided what we wanted to accomplish and who the target audience was, then we got to create it. So I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. And one of the things that comes to mind, and as people visit the Global Wellness Institute website, there's quite a lot of hospitality people or people that are looking for create unique experiences in the spa or something as people come back. So I think one of the things that come to mind is just knowing you and who you are. I think it would be really cool to offer maybe a weekend event where you could bring people together, not only just performing, but also inviting them to share their story as even what they were, even as a part of the healing process of this experience we're having now, and to uplift the vibes of the planet. So anyway, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think um, there's always as this goes clear back to, gosh, I guess the late 80s and playing in a band. And one of the guys who was older than me, he'd been in a band for a long time, and he said it always comes and goes with DJs being the thing that everybody wants, and then they want live music, and it's always different in different areas. But he said the pendulum tends to swing from live music to DJ stuff. And then in the world of education and business and all that, it seems like we kind of swing sometimes from we want live experiences to no, we could do it more efficiently online. And well, it's swung real hard towards the online because of, the whole coronavirus thing. So when you say that about, I think from this experience, there are going to be so many ways for people to express this experience, but it makes sense to me that after so many people have been cooped up, that when it is safe and we can do it in a good way, actually bringing people together in where they can interact as, in the same space and share that energy. I think that's going to be important. And I'm kind of guessing the pendulum will swing that way a bit at some point in the next few years. I think people will be hungry for real life human touch.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. God bless you for the work you're doing. And thank you for spending this time with us.
I'm really grateful that the whole global wellness initiative has allowed another avenue for people to think about wellness and to think about the music piece and what that has to do with healing and all kinds of things. So I think this is important and helpful. So spread the word.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
You bet. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, have a beautiful rest of the day. Okay.